Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Big hello to all the new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Gonna get back. This is part 2 of the little bitty 71 Johnson 25 long shaft 2-stroke. I've got mostly everything hooked up like I want to get it hooked up, but I posted the part 1, and I'm sorry I forget the YouTuber's name, but they said, hey, you looked at, them spark plugs ain't right, you put the wrong ones in, or you looked at it wrong, or whatever. So I got out my manual again and looked, and he was absolutely correct. And what he pointed out is the J4C and the L77 JC4 are completely different sizes. If you line them up, you can see one's just a little longer than the other. So he was correct, so I put JC4s in there. And I double checked that on the evanrudeusa.com website as well. And so that's what I put in there. And then of course, use this stuff. Put just a little, not a blob, but just put you a little on the ceramic, on the plug, and then just a light coat thin film on the tip of the spark plug. For one thing, that helps with the corrosion issues, but it also makes the spark plug boot come off and back on easy. So do that. So I appreciate that getting pointed out to me. So we got the right plugs, we got everything gap set, we got everything dielectric. Okay, so got everything all hooked up here. What I did was put a man overboard switch right here to kill it, and I drilled a hole here, ran the terminals right through there, and I put the start switch where the old kill switch was. Remember that old spring that was holding that electric choke? I even used it. I put my wires for the kill switch in it. And I heat shrinked everything. And nice old Johnson. And like I said, I really prefer this solenoid. I'm going to look and see if I've got more of those brackets. I like where that's at. Boy, you can get to the contacts, everything super easy. I really like that. Yeah. So, kill switch, man overboard, lanyard, stop switch starter button right where it says start, or I mean right where it says stop, that means start. Yeah, so all I got left on her, other than some serious cleaning, is water pump impeller. That's next. I'll be back. Now, if you're using one of these old style stop switches, always remember to check your nudity, your continuity. You understand? There's a little upside down bell made out of copper in there, and there's two little bitty nipples in there made out of copper, one hook to each wire. I got it hooked up to my continuity on my multimeter, set it continuity, beep, 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 beep. That's what you do. Because when I first hooked this up to the nudity checker, I had no nudity. So I had to pull that rubber cap off, just take a screwdriver and pry it off, and I took a wire brush and cleaned up all them contacts. Now I got nudity. So, I'll hook that switch in. Great. I'll hook the switch. But first I got to drill a hole. But I got continuity, so I hook one of each wire to the switch. And then when I push the button, she'll start. Okay, you can see we got the gear oil draining out of there. Really don't look that bad. It doesn't smell like crude oil, and but I wanted to point something out real quick. If you're having trouble getting the drain screws and fill screws out, get you that. And get you a tip that looks like that one. And then you just set it lefty-loosey right down here. You set it, and then you put it in there and give it a whack. And it's a little impact screwdriver, and that'll generally, and don't go all Hulk Hogan on it. Just give it a nice, like you're trying to take it out and hit. Just a little whack, and that'll generally break them right out, and they'll come right out then. So I'll let her drain for a bit, and then I'll be back. Okay, so still moving along on the little 1971 Johnson 25. Motor mounts. Motor mounts. All broken. Even that one's broken. I just haven't taken it off yet. And as you can see, the drive shaft is stuck in the power head. So, I've got it hanging from my little ramrod, and it's not touching the ground. And she was swinging. So, I squirted some lubricants and such down in there. And I'm going to let her soak for a while, probably overnight. And, because we got to get that stuck drive shaft out of there. Now, if I have to, if soaking it here and tapping on it with a piece of wood and hammer don't pop it out of there, I have that. And that is a jig that you can make out of just plate steel. I've got a couple of them around here. I've got that one and another one. And you put that down over the shaft and use nuts up under there to press up against something you've drilled or welded onto the drive shaft. And you can see I welded it right here. I had a washer up under that, so it was pushing up on it. And man, I put some torque on it and it didn't budge, so I'll probably have to, and it literally broke the weld on the washer, so I'm going to let it soak for a little bit, and then I'll probably put that jig back on there, re-weld another washer. And I have other drive shafts the same size, but this drive shaft is still usable. I just take it and take it over to my big grinding wheel and just grind the weld off. And But when I first run this little cutie, I noticed it wasn't cooling very well. And I also found this. Somebody took a piece of fuel hose. That's a hose clamp. And they clamped it there, and it was stuck into the water pickup tube, and you can see it was cracked right there. So she wasn't. That's why the impeller's probably going to be fine, but I'm going to replace it anyway. But yeah, I've never seen that before. But hey, it worked for a while apparently, and it was peeing, just not a lot. And I hit it with my thermal temperature gun there, and it was right at the getting too hot point. So, but yeah, more custom pieces, parts. Swing the outboard. Okay, this is how these little jigs for pulling a stuck drive shaft out work. That's what the jig looks like. Okay. All right. It goes down over the drive shaft through the big hole there. Then, if it's not real bad, you can just take a couple pair of vice grips and clamp in here. Like such kind of thing. Okay, clamp them on good and tight. Now you're going to come up under here with your wrench and tighten. Go up evenly on both sides. Most of the time I found they'll come out with just a couple pairs of vice grips on it. But if they're real tough, you take something thick. You can see where that's kind of a little bit bowed. You put it over there, and I actually put a weld bead around that. Then I come in with the wrench and tighten it up. And as you tighten it, it pulls the drive shaft out. And yes, it does work. Sorry about the airplane. This guy's doing his check ride or something. He's flown over the house about 8 times. But that's how those work. And then, as I said, it didn't seem like it was quite cooling good. I wonder why. Uh-oh. Maybe that's why. This is one of the filthiest little motors. Look at this. Look at that thing. And then there's that. And then there's that. But I got lots of water tubes and coppers and solders and stuff, and we picked that up. And remember, one of the best ways to know if you're having cooling problems is you must have good water flow out your P tube or your blubber hole. It's that simple. Keep an eye on your telltale, keep an eye on your blubber hole, and if you lose flow, you may have sucked up something or your impeller finally went. So it is important. You must have the flow. My outboard, it runs hot. My outboard, it won't pee. I brought it to the shop. Fix my outboard, please. Now my outboard peas runs cool as it can be. Shut up, we're getting most of the yuck scale and everything off of it. And I replaced this motor mount that was broke. Of course, I had to drill and tap that oversize. But it's on there. I got to take off this broken motor mount. I've got two good ones ready to go. And then I've got these that go there. They're brand new. So a little more sanding and I'll get some etching primer on it. And then after that I'll put a coat of finishing primer. Then she'll be ready to paint. I'll be back. Okay, first everything's going to get a couple light coats of this. This is the proper stuff for the bare aluminum. And you don't have to put it on super thick. But put like 2 thin coats. And then let that dry. And then, because there's some pitting, scratching and stuff, I like to come over with kind of like an automotive primer to smooth things out before I paint it. So that's going to be the process. So I'm going to let that coat dry, put one more coat of zinc, and then 2 coats of the automotive primer. Okay, what you're looking at here is 2 coats of zinc etching primer, and then 2 coats of a sandable automotive primer. And I like doing it this way because it really does take away a lot of the imperfections in an outboard that's got age to it and little pitting and stuff. It helps fill that in. So that'll dry for a little bit and then I'll get a top coat on it. I'll be back. Okay, so I think I replaced everything that needed to be replaced and fixed. Motor mounts all broken up. Out of the 3 on top, 2 of those, one on each side motor mount, was busted. On the bottom, where the 2 clamps come together, all 3 were busted. So I got that all straightened out. Hooked up some starters, hooked up some man overboard, hooked up some terminal leads, replaced some busted transom clamp handles, water pump impeller and base plate. And then we did the cosmetic stuff. And this little cutie will probably run for another 50 years. And I was thinking about just how filthy this thing was. And you know, but it's almost a half a century of yuck. And I could tell that it had been a while since anybody put hands on it and gave it some loving. But she is a little cutie. Hopefully she'll be around for a lot longer. And she is a true survivor. Let's take a peep. I'll point out some things too. There she is. You can see where I painted the little linkage connector access port like a chartreuse green, and I found the green that I used is called Charleston green, and it was a very close match to the original. There it is. Paint and primer in one. I don't listen to that. I put 2 coats of etching primer, and I put 2 coats of automotive primer. Then I put the Charleston green from Exo Rust, and it came out to be a really close match to the original paint. Then I painted the prop. That's called Heirloom White, and it matches the bonnet almost to the T. And if you look, I painted the little prop nut cap copper-ish, in keeping with my favorite Johnson motors, which are the copper and cream colored one. The bonnet, I did not paint it. I did touch up the word Johnson with a little paint pen. So, she's a cutie. Let's get her in the tank and let's give her a run. The blubber hose. EP's good now. Little motor. Po-po-po. So that's going to be a wrap on the 1971 25 horsepower Johnson long shaft 2-stroker. I think the owner will be quite pleased. Given the condition of this motor now as opposed when it showed up here, I think it'll be around a lot longer than it would have been. So it's a survivor and it's a little cutie. That's a wrap for this one. Thanks for watching.